Welcome to this session where we shall be talking about project risks and sensitivity analysis. This session is very significant to manager to understand any type of projects has elements of project risks. Now, if you know that all projects are having a risk, you as a manager, you need to understand the context of your project in which the project is operating. You need to analyze those risks that you think can endanger your operation. Some risks you can control, some risks you cannot control. You will have to go with it at the end of the day. So as a manager, you need to sit down and plan accordingly. Any operation, any mission that you are having in your mind, you need to analyze risk associated with you. Now, any activity that you expect your project will be running, it has some risk. Those risks may harm the project. Those risks may reduce the welfare of the shareholders. Those risks may bring down the image of your organization or the project itself. So you need to plan properly. You need to plan properly. It is better that you plan rather than finding yourself you're caught up in a trap where you now realize the event has happened and you don't have any plan on the table. So you need to be careful as a manager. You need to be careful as a manager. You need to understand why you should undertake risks analysis in your project. You should know one thing. You should understand that as a manager, you should not entertain doing high risk. We all know high risk is highly related with the high returns. But again, from the project management point of view, is that if it happens, if you are undertaking high risk activities, if it contributes, if the incidents happen, what will be your reaction on it? What are you going to do? Imagine this person down, sitting there, is a mechanic repairing his vehicle, but he has used a piece of timber as a jack for his vehicle, while knowing by itself that piece of timber may be broken down. So what will be the outcome of that gentleman sitting underneath? That will be a total loss. The life of that gentleman you see right there will be gone. And those are the high risk. Now, we say from this context that manager shouldn't be performing very high risky project. If you want to perform, yes, you can, but you should understand the scenario. You should understand if it comes to worst scenario, what will happen to projects? You will have a total loss. A total loss is a total failure of yourself and the project. So you need some risks you can mitigate through transferring. Some risks you can control. Of course, there's some other risks you can let it go by the way it is because you cannot control each and everything in a project. There are some risks that if they happen, they will have to be like that. So for me, I find that manager should be very sensitive when it comes to risk analysis. Analyze, you need to know the scope to which the project is operating. You need to understand the risks around the project. You need to prepare risk register. What are the kind of risks that are associated with the project? Then you can easily control your project. What is risk, by the way? Risk is something that may happen or may not happen. If it happened, may jeopardize the success of the project or the investment. This may happen, and if it happen, may endanger your project. If it happen, it may bring a total loss to the project. So you as a manager, you need to take control of it. You need at least to know what is happening around. You should not sit without analyzing any action within your project context. Understand the risk. It is important. It is non-desirable. Nobody would like risk to happen in their life. Nobody would like to be encountered with the risk. So it is a non-desirable events or outcome that everybody don't like it. The aim of the project manager here is to overcome potential hazards that the project may be exposed to. This may involve risk identification and analysis, risk management. When we talk about risk identification and analysis, it's about assessing the probability of risk occurring and examining the impact in each project. When we talk about management, what action is taken to counteract or prepare for risk? It is also very important for you guys. It's very important. You need to manage those risks. You need to manage those risks. Project risks are characterized by the fact that they are usually at least partially unknown. You may not know some risks. They change with the time. They change with the time. I know they are manageable in the sense that the action may be taken to change the impact so you can manage. They exist only in the future tense. There are no past risks, only actual occurrence. Okay? They exist in all types of investments or projects. They exist. So you should know they exist. All projects have risks. Key consideration in the project. You need to consider risks in several categories. You might be finding yourself, you are having contractual risks, You are getting into contract with the companies. There are risks out of getting good performance, out of signing the documents. When you sign the documents, there is a risk in the process. So you need to make a risk analysis, contractual risk analysis, analyze by itself, so that when you offer, you can transfer some risks to someone who is providing service to you. Operational risks. Some risks, they're operational. They are happening because we are performing some activities within the project. So it is operational. Some risks are on environmental risks. We need to know those risks that are environmental risks. Floods and so on. Heavy rainfall. These are just weather, you see, earthquake, so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. Diseases, eruptions, COVID-19, closing down your project because of COVID. That is out of control because we currently don't have insurance for COVID. So if you know we don't have even insurance, those are some of, you let it go. It has happened. You close it down. You cannot control corona virus 19. You see, you cannot control COVID-19. So, but you need to know, what if it happened? Financial risks, issue of frauds happening in your projects, the issue of finance. You need to take note about those risks. Political risks, politicians interfering in the operation of the project. It is also a problem. The human resource risks, you see. The personnel employed in the projects who cannot be able to deliver good performance, you see, it is a risk. It is a risk, may cause failure to the project. So you need to analyze, you need to know, you need to brainstorm. You need to brainstorm. And what action are you going to take if you understand it is like that? You see, these are most projects are characterized with uncertainties. You should remember, when we appraise our project, we are appraising based on the forecasted estimates, of which the future is not certain because it is based on the assumptions. The work itself, the work breakdown structure, it is estimated. So you have to brainstorm and come up with it. The costs, revenue are also estimated. Your cash flow is estimated. And therefore, because you use a lot of estimation, there are so many dynamics that are likely to happen within your project. But you as a manager, you need to manage the outcome. You need to manage the content of your scope. Okay, there might be a plan, but competition may come and hit your business or your projects. At the end of the day, you may find yourself, the market share is gone down, and also prices, due to competition, price may fall down. So these are the things that you as a manager, you need to know about. Risk. Risk is the chance, it's likelihood of adverse consequences occurring. Investments is risk sensitive. All projects are risk sensitive. When if the risk occur, it can jeopardize a key aspects of the project. This includes loss of income. This is what will happen. There will be loss of income. Another thing is delivering things late, and also things may go wrong. This is the way we are talking about it. So that's why we are saying you better plan for the risk. You better plan for the risk because there is a reward when you plan your risk. You should understand the probability of failure. You should understand the impact of failure. You should understand about that. Of course, we say the impact multiplied by probability, this will give you the risk exposure. So the risk exposure is equal to impact multiplied by probability. So if risk do not happen, you'll be fine. But if it happen, you have a total loss. So which mitigation you have, you go for the reward. You need to develop your capability to cope with risk as a manager. As a project manager, you must develop your good capacity of your organization or the project to cope with risks. Okay? Now, why? It's because there is a reward. There is a reward. So you step on it. There is reward for those organizations that plan for the risks. So this is what is happening. It's just a matter of timing. If you find you have a danger hazard, then you can run for the rewards. And it is important. Some risk you can insure, other risk you can cope with, and so on. So what is project risk management in this context? Risk management is the name given to a logical and systematic methods of identifying, analyzing, treating, and monitoring the risk involved in any activity or process. The basic process are as follows when you're looking at risk. Number one is establish the context. You should establish the context. You should identify the risks, analyze risks, evaluate risks, treat those risks. What are the sources? The sources in a project can be, the sources of risk can be from internal and the others can be from external. And they will depend from human factors, you see, political factors, environmental, legal, economic, financial, you see, commercial, technical, operation, just like the way I have said in the other chapter. These things, they're very important for manager to know. If you underestimate political change, may come and hit your projects. If you underestimate the competency among your staff, may come and hit your projects, and that is also a problem. So you will know management incompetency in terms of corporate policies, poor leadership, lack of clarity over roles, responsibility, inadequate authorities, poor staff selection procedures, perception regarding risks, individual group interests that are within the project, you will face some problem. The issue of political unexpected regulatory control, licensing requirements, changes in tax or tax structure, and change in government. The government can come up with any policy. They may come up and say, introduce nationalization, war, terrorism, and disorder in a country. All these are the risks. Active resistance from stakeholders and so on. For environmental, can be natural disasters, storm, pollution incidents, and so on. Others can be legal, you see, and so on. All these are the issues that you find you as a manager, you need to control. At least if you cannot control, but you need also to develop analysis about those risks. Let us remind ourselves regarding the key vocabulary in project risks. We have cause owner, person accountable for causing the possibility of a risk. That is, and we also have classification of risk, a level of risks typically high or medium or low. So you will have classification of either high, medium, low, minimum. You see, you can go for contingency, cost or time allowance to compensate for probability of risks. And then we have a dependency, where risk is dependent on an activity. Then we have exposure. Risk exposure, just like the way I said in the other time, I said risk exposure of any given risk is equal to probability of risk occurring multiplied by total loss if a project occurs. That is very important. And impact is effect of risks, usually shown as a cost or the time delay. Mitigation, action to reduce or eliminate the risks. You can transfer, maybe by ensuring something and so on, or you may not do it. Also, we also have probability, likelihood of risks occurrence. So it may happen or it may not happen. It may happen. This is probability. You see. A risk budget. A risk budget is just about allocation of costs and schedule of allowance held in a reserve to be spent only with emergency of uncertainty. So that is the risk budget. A risk trigger, project risk trigger, an event that indicates that risks needed to be reassessed. So that is risk trigger. Now, management triggers, an events that initiates risk management plan or action. That will be about cost or time overrun. That will be about changing the exchange rates and also about actual or potential supplier failure. So these are the risk management trigger. These triggers, you need to control your cost, you need to control your time, you need to check for the exchange rates, you need to check with your supplier all the time. They may supply or they may not supply depending on the situation and so on. But those risks must be listed in one of the book that we know as, we understand it is known as risk register. So you need to register all your risks. Can we really manage all risks in a project? Project risks management cannot eliminate all the risks in a project, but it can ensure that the project's exposure can be minimized to a certain level. So you may not phase out all the risks in the project. Some they're coming up, they are beyond your control. So you need to plan, you need to make sure you control them. So we can't eliminate all risks. Some risk we have to go along with it. If you want to analyze risks, make sure the first step, you understand the work breakdown structure. You have the work breakdown structure. You also have risks, risk assessment checklist. It means this is about identifying the risks. When you identify your risks, you must brainstorm through checking your work breakdown structure and assess those risks associated in the work breakdown structure. So you will have to assess each risks, compute the probability of occurrence, the likelihood of impact. You can also rank your risks in terms of high, medium, or low, and so on, depending on the criteria that you have. But again, it is the same, must be included in the risk register. You need to have a special book for registering all your risks. Now, risk response plan. Risk response plan, it is about eliminating risks whenever possible. It is about minimizing risks. It is about isolating risks. It is about developing alternative causes of actions, and so on. It is about establishing time and money reserves to cover risks that cannot be avoided. So you need to develop that kind of thinking and a mentality. When you do all those, you're talking of risk plan, then you need to plan for response. The following are the key types of response to risks. Other risks, you may find yourself avoiding it. Avoid. If you find you should not do it, avoid. If you find it is high risk, avoid from doing it. Other risks you can mitigate, you can insure it. Other risks you can transfer. You can transfer for a third party to perform. Other risks you can cope. You see, other risks, of course, it's about you can absorb. You see, other risks, of course, you may continue. You may continue conducting research. Now, identification of risks. This is about the process of risk identification that should examine all the area of project in a systematic manner. Be proactive rather than reactive. Use information from all available sources. You see, for example, previous lessons, land files, other historical information about the projects in context. You need to go back and start reading the documentation to understand what are the historical issues in that project settings. If it is new, that is another case. But if it is existing, you have been brought to that particular project to manage, then you need to find out the facts from historical information. Or planning output to date, including work breakdown structure, schedule, cost plans, project charter, you see, the feasibility study. All this will assist you in identifying project risks. Now, um, um, when we talk about risk assessment, of course, this is just a process whereby decisions are made to accept a known or assessed risks and all implementation of action to reduce the consequences of occurrence. Of course, assessing risk involves stakeholders. When you involve different stakeholders, then it means they will own the process of risk in case it happens. So you have responsibility to involve different people, you see. And also, when you're assessing, you need to put the score. You see, score the risk, you score them. What is the score? Low, medium, high, and so on. So you can also rank. You need to rank. Okay. Now, the risk exposure, as I said the other time, I'm repeating it again. The risk exposure is equal to risk impact value multiply by probability of occurrence. Multiply by probability of occurrence. So by that way, what you will see, let me share with you this one right here. Let me share a little bit, then we can understand what is happening here. For example, risk exposure. Risk exposure is equal to impact value multiplied by the probability of occurrence, of which risks you need to develop a table like that one, where you will have a risk number, and you will have the impact, you'll have the probability, you'll have the exposure. So you need to compute the value for each. For example, the impact for level 1 or maybe R1 is 10 million, and the probability is 0.0001 in terms of pounds. When you convert it, it will give you maybe that is 1,000 pounds and so on. So it is up to you to know what is happening right there in your project, which one, and how do you level those risks? How do you level those risks? So if you know you are leveling these risks, you have measured the probability of occurrence. That is important for you to know that you can control these risks, and depending on the level of occurrence. So any manager must understand that it is important you take into account the risk analysis in your project. Manager should insist on doing risks. This is what I will say. And it helps what we don't know and prevent bad things from happening and encourage good things to happen. Be open and be honest about the problem. This is all about project risks. Now, for sensitivity analysis, for project sensitivity analysis, it is almost the same of what we are talking about right here. When you are using project sensitivity analysis, you are almost trying to determine the risks. You are trying to compute the risks. For the next session, we will be discussing in detail about project sensitivity analysis. This is session 1. And I give you a break for 5 minutes. Then when you come back, we will discuss about project sensitivity analysis. Thank you. Let's go for break. Then when we get to break, after break, we will continue discussing about this one.